Welcome to Season 3 of the Soundstage Audiophile Podcast. Last year, host Jorden Guth got a crash course in the fundamentals of hi-fi from enthusiasts, journalists, manufacturers, and music industry professionals alike. Those lessons will continue, but this year, Jorden will also get a history lesson from the legends who were there from the giddy-up and who made hi-fi what it is today. So with that out of the way, here's Jorden and this week's guest.
Hello and welcome to the Soundstage Audiophile Podcast. Today we have Rob Jones, president of Magnetar North America, a relatively new company with a roster of experience that is looking to bring out the best possible options to listen to and watch physical media. Welcome, Rob.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, thanks for coming on. So I guess I heard a little bit about Magnetar from Dennis, our producer, that kind of gave me a little bit of an insight into what Magnetar's mission is and all that, but I don't actually know a whole lot about you. So give us the Coles Notes version, like give us a little spiel about how you ended up kind of where you are now, running Magnetar and kind of in this industry.
It is a long and twisted story that I will abbreviate as much as I can.
Okay.
So my original background comes from the entertainment industry. I, as a very young human being, had friends who were in bands that ultimately became very famous, very large, and all coming out of the wonderful Sunset Strip period of the 80s, right? Nice. So I have always been around kind of music, entertainment, crowds, and looking at how that translates kind of to the human emotion, as well as having a family that has always been on the technical computer side. My father started a computer magazine in 1975 called Interface Age, geared towards the home computerist, if that makes any sense for that particular time period, right? So I've always kind of had this hybrid of technology on one side of my brain and entertainment on the other. And in the mid-90s, I kind of saw where this was all going to converge and explode. And that made me kind of very interested in how consumers were ultimately going to be getting their entertainment. And that was obvious to me. It was going to be online. Started immersing myself in streaming technologies, streaming audio, streaming video, compression algorithms, how to get content from point A to point B. Was part of the original Mars Pathfinder mission.
Cool.
In 97, I think that was. In 1998, started a music-to-consumer.com based on a very famous Los Angeles radio station that was very endeared, that had gone off the air, called KNAC. And it was kind of the flagship hard rock and heavy metal station. And if you watch anybody's videos from Metallica to Guns N' Roses to Bon Jovi, you'll always see KNAC t-shirts or license plates or stickers or, within that genre, it was very popular. So, ultimately that company was sold to Clear Channel in 2001. And from there, I just kind of started consulting a bunch of other companies, including Clear Channel / Live Nation, on their conversion strategies for digital media to consumers, ultimately leading to coming back to my roots after a history of like I said, in the entertainment with the management and toured the world with bands for years and saw that side of it. One of the solutions that I've always loved was, home theater and immersive sound. And having spent a lot of time in recording studios with bands making records, I kind of had some technical insights that thought, there has got to be a way that isn't a sound bar. And this came about in 2013-ish. That isn't a sound bar that allows a consumer to have a plug and play, set it and forget it, wireless home theater solution. And I went through a bunch of different technologies and ultimately landed on a company called Summit, which ultimately turned into WISA. Okay. Built a prototype set, rounded up some investors, built that product, released it in 2015. The company was called Enclave Audio. And after doing the deal with the investment group, we did a round of 3 different versions of that particular product. And I have now moved into taking that company to kind of the next level for 2025, 10th anniversary. And in the process, ran across mutual friends at a factory level, said, hey, there's this company, Magnetar, and they offer a really great product that is physical media based. And they need someone to come into the U.S. market and really kind of take over the brand and plant the flags and drive the business. And I thought, Enclave is kind of in its refresh, rebrand. And I get what these guys are doing because they're kind of offering a solution that isn't necessarily the soup du jour, so to speak, right? I mean, if you look at the brand of a Blu-ray player, people are going to point and kind of laugh at you in this day and age, right? But I looked at the product was so much more, right? It's an SACD player, a DVD, it plays network-based media from a LAN, a USB drive. So it's more of a universal media player than it is just a Blu-ray player. So it checks a lot of boxes. And in this market, Oppo was the big name, right? In that particular space. Let's put it this way, it was certainly the most respected brand, I think, in kind of the premium level. So these guys had, I got a hold of the product and thought it was just fantastic and started asking around and realized that there are a lot of consumers out there and a lot of folks that still have large physical media libraries and that still consume media with a disc because they're not wholly subscribed to the streaming world, which is, I call it the convenience factor, right? It's the same thing that happened to music, where you had the MP3ification of our world, where now people think that's what music sounds like, and it doesn't. And streaming is what people think video looks like, and it doesn't.
Yeah.
Right. So this was a great way for me to kind of stay true to my thing of I don't want to be a Me Too. I want to do something that's kind of different. However, this path of being different was actually recognizing that there is a huge place where Oppo left off, that Magnetar's vision was to kind of take that where they left off and take it to the next level. So that's how I got where I am as we speak.
So, there's like 100 different questions that come to mind right now, but I guess to kind of take Magnetar back, relatively new company.
Yes.
But what you mentioned that you're the president of North America. What is, or where is the founding of Magnetar? How does that come into the picture? Like, when did that actually happen?
Sure.
And was it always based on the physical media idea, or was there other technologies that they were looking to solve as well?
So Magnetar is a vanity brand of a very large OEM in Asia, and that does high volume mass market physical media products. So there's a lot of branded products in big box retailers that you'll see that's ours.
Gotcha.
Right. So
they make the guts that everyone else uses and then puts and some physical players for other brands. Right. Okay.
None in this space, right? None in this kind of premium space.
Gotcha.
But, brands we all know and love.
Yep.
So, these guys have been doing this for a long time. They get it. And, I wasn't here when the original vision was implemented, but I quickly understood what the end goal was. And that was to, satisfy a market that was rapidly evaporating, where the business could actually sustain because it wasn't reliant on another factory. We are the factory. So we can manage our costs. We can make sure that the product has QA standards that,
vertical integration is real. It really, yeah.
It just, every advantage possible was there, and the opportunity, to kind of fill the void that was there existed, and they jumped on it. And originally came, that happened. The first product came out in 2023. And they had originally come to the U.S. just through a distributor and realized that the U.S. was kind of the base from which kind of resonates out to the rest of the world, and decided they wanted to open the division up themselves and kind of, establish the footprint here in the States, still maintaining distribution in other territories, but with the U.S. kind of being their own baby versus handing it off to a third-party distributor.
Again, so many questions that could kind of come out of this. But when you mentioned Oppo,
Yes.
Oppo,
it's a wrestling match. Oppo.
Okay.
It's everybody, I think they even had some social media questions. How do you pronounce it?
Oh yeah. Okay. There you go. So right. OPPO.
Yeah. Yes. OPPO.
That just sounds hilarious. But for anybody that isn't familiar with that, they were kind of this all-in-one player device, and they were going strong for quite some years and kind of had a following in this high-end physical media space. And then they just stopped producing the players, because I guess they're focusing on like cell phones now, like totally different industry.
There's other verticals they focused on. And I think, as with a lot of other manufacturers, the decline, quote unquote, of the physical disc market caused people to reevaluate their books and say, is this a business we still want to be in?
And this kind of leads into the next thought, which is, okay, so we're now 2024, we're bordering on 2025. Mm-hmm. like, is physical media here to stay, or is this, like you kind of mentioned, like, is this a dying industry? Is physical media going to be kind of gone the way of, I was going to say cassettes, but they're actually making a comeback. Pick another beta tapes. You don't see beta tapes anymore.
Right. No, listen, I as you would question the same thing and did question the same thing in kind of looking at this and saying, well, what really is the market? And like I said, what my diligence kind of unclosed was there is a lot of people with large libraries of discs, and there's not a ton of options that aren't, big box everyday kind of players, right?
Yeah.
So there was definitely a market opportunity for it. While there are less big box retailers carrying discs, the Targets and the Best Buys have all kind of, removed themselves. What you have is these shout factories and arrows and folks like that who are, gobbling up licenses and remastering and putting out really cool kind of collectible sets wrapped around the physical media. So now it's kind of the same resurgence that you see vinyl having, where, vinyl is, as actually I read the other day, has outperformed CDs.
Yeah,
right?
It's wild.
It's, so I think it's going away? No, absolutely not. I think there'll always be a place for it. I think, Magnetar is poised to be able to really be the leader in that position because, again, they are the factory. They understand the market. They've been doing it for a long time. And I think that, for us, we focused on the tag of a Blu-ray player, 4K UHD disc player. Yeah. But in reality, for example, the UDP 900 product that we have, that is an SACD player. It plays DVD-A. It plays networked files from a LAN. It plays USB, supports USB drives up to 16 terabytes. So
Kodak picture CDs, by the way, which I had a Kodak camera in the early 2000s, so I remember that format.
It's amazing, right? There isn't a whole. I wouldn't say there isn't anything, but there isn't a lot you can't stick in that player via a USB disc or otherwise that it won't render, right? It won't play, and so. When you look at there's is there an SACD market? Yeah, there is. Esoteric will tell you at a really premium price point there is, right?
Yeah.
So there are folks out there who definitely feel that this market exists, and while it may not be in its peak vibrancy, it's a monetizable and profitable market. Considering you have the resources and ability to make it so. So I don't think it's going away. I think that people more and more are taking the route of, I'll take my physical disc and I won't worry about disc rot in 20 years, and I'll rip it to a drive, and I'll forever have the disc and the playable source, so my disc will never deteriorate in any way, shape, or form, or I won't put a scratch on it, right? Yeah. And we will play either of those formats, right? So we are a utility player. There are guys out there who have their physical disc player, and then they have their SACD player, and then they have their streamer, and they have, we kind of constitute all of those things. The USB 900 has a USB DAC. So there are guys who literally use the USB 900, don't use any physical media at all. They use it as a DAC on their digital audio workstation.
Interesting.
And that's how they roll, right? So we are a lot of things to a lot of people, which gives us an ability to kind of say, look, don't pigeonhole us in that Blu-ray box or that disc box, because this product offers so much more. And by the time you buy a USB DAC and an SACD player and a physical disc 4K player, you're going to be probably spending more than what we're going to zap you on one of our 900s. So.
Interesting. Yeah. And so the pitch that I've had for CDs, because I've asked people that still collect CDs, there's a friend of mine, John, who probably for DVDs, he has the biggest DVD collection I've ever seen, and Blu-ray now, that I've ever seen. Like, walls of his basement are covered head to toe in like movies. And the pitch for movies is that at any moment a streaming service could basically say, yeah, we don't want to pay the royalties on this movie. It's gone. And if it's not available anywhere else, it's gone for good. You have companies like Disney. It didn't even get onto it might have gotten onto streaming. There was a movie that was released a couple years ago that effectively they took the loss and cut costs, and I think it premiered and kind of exited their streaming service after like a week. Yeah. And unless somebody ripped it, that's gone. Like, that's not making a comeback. And then for CDs, the interesting thing, and this is, I guess, part of the idea of the resurgence of cassettes, and vinyl to some respect as well. It's that by buying that at a concert or a show, or directly from your favorite musician's website or booth or whatever it may be, you're supporting that artist more directly than you would if, let's say, you stream their song 20 times from, I don't know, Spotify or
and
Tidal.
Made them their 2.2 cents or whatever it is.
Yeah, exactly. So like, I do see those kind of arguments for it. Do you find that the physical media is still very popular in the United States, or is the market, like you mentioned that the Magnetar started overseas, is it more of an Asian cultural thing, or is it a North American cultural thing, or is it a mix? Like, I'm just kind of curious about that.
Sure. Well, so I can tell you, for example, if you slice it just kind of by industry. So the music industry, in particular in Japan, still very physical media driven.
Yeah,
right?
laser discs.
Right?
They're the
right.
largest purchasers of laser discs.
Physical
Wild.
media in Japan, especially in music, is still very much an active format.
Yeah.
I mean, I can tell you, having friends that are out there touring right now and doing it in arenas and stadium levels, they consider those products merch. So it's like a t-shirt now, right? You got a t-shirt, you got a poster, you got a record. It's not so much about, hey, what was number one on the Billboard album charts 30 years ago, took a lot of records sold. Today, not so much, right? Because it's a whole different formula, a whole different mixture. So having a number one record today is not as prestigious as it once was, per se.
Yeah.
Right. But, the mentality is that it's merch. And I think even the studios are starting to adopt that to an extent based on what you see with, physical media 4K and these, like I said earlier, these collectible packages that, have all of these extra features and things. Like I saw this $250 David Bowie Labyrinth box set. Whoa. That was the, an original movie poster, a crystal ball, a pin set. I mean, it's a box full for the ultimate Labyrinth, fan.
Yeah.
It's a treasure trove, right? And then there's an $80 version, which has a few less, toys in the box and that kind of stuff. So, it's really kind of a merch thing, I think. And yes, you're going to have your Amazons and those guys who are still going to sell you a single 4K disc. Yeah. Again, even with that, in most of those cases, if you're a guy who's got a premium player, and let's say in the bedroom, you just got your TV with all of its native apps, you're going to get the digital code for that movie as well, in most cases. Yeah. So you're kind of covered on every base, whether you're, doing the convenience streamed route, right? Which is great. And I understand it. It again, kind of going back to the reason Enclave was founded was because of the soundbar, mixed sound, I call it, wasn't representative of what movies should sound like. And one of Enclave's biggest marketing plans was movie theaters don't have a sound bars. Why should you? And it's true, right? Because that experience, we can get you closer to it. Psychoacoustics and all that stuff, wonderful, great, but you're sacrificing a lot. Right. And one of the first things that I did kind of personally and have traveled with me is I have kind of my board of advisors. Right. And these are guys that actually create movies. One of them, a gentleman named Paul Harb, who's, one of Stallone's main editors who did Creed and Creed 2 and, a bunch of the stuff.
Movies.
Yeah. Rocky Balboa and Rambo, the newer ones. Right.
Yeah. And,
I lean on these guys heavily. I send them a player and I go, look, what do you think? And they're not going to BS me, right? We're friends. Right? Yeah, so they're going to say, look, this is probably crap. Like, what are you doing? Or they're going to come back and give me constructive feedback. And, in Paul's case, for example, he came back and said, look, this little player outputs signal that looks like I'm back on the QA stage. Like it's that good. And I'm like, okay, cool. And
you're in the color suite doing dailies and you're watching. Yeah.
Right.
That's awesome.
So then I go to another buddy of mine who's, senior sound designer at Warner Brothers, who's worked on major movies, and say, listen, what do you think? Let's talk about these streaming versus Blu-ray and what happens to the audio, between, the big Atmos mix and the near field mix, and, what you're losing by watching a streamed version of a video, even on an audio level, is almost offensive if you enjoy entertainment, right? It really is. And some of the premises that I learned where if there's a theatrical release, they're going to do the big house mix, and then they're going to fold it down and do the near field mix. And they don't always know what streamer it's going to go to, right? And once it goes to that first streamer, and all these streamers have their loudness settings and they're kind of more arbitrary numbers that you have to meet. So once you make one version of that for, let's say, Netflix, and then it gets moved from Netflix to HBO, they're not doing another version just for HBO based on what HBO specifications are. It's that same version, and it's whatever algorithm they're using to compress it and encode it. So it's why you see this variance from streaming service to streaming service, even from TV to streamer box. Your audio experiences can be entirely different. I was watching something the other night on a streaming service I won't name, and then I actually went and I owned the movie, and then because I'm like, why does this sound so dull and just so yuck? And then I went and actually a streaming version on Vudu that I paid for, there it is, right? And it's because the streamer that had it had some stepped on
off
their
mix
algorithm.
Yeah.
And these guys have these numbers, right? So, Ando's saying to me, he's like, look, we're in there, pulling stuff down just to meet volume level requirements in the mix without any consideration for creative intent or expression, right? It's just happening because it's a binary that has to happen. And that, that's a little weird, right? So you're definitely sacrificing when you go those routes. And I think Magnetar, along with myself, always want to push the experience. I'm solely about, I give you an example. I had a customer, an Enclave customer, that sent a note that said to me, I sat down with my kids and my family to watch a movie, and I was having nothing but problems with the Enclave. And it wasn't the fact that he had problems with the Enclave that bothered me. It was what he said. I went to sit down with my family for our movie night, and you guys were the problem that caused that from not happening, that created that experience
Friction
for us.
Yeah.
Right. And that to me is, listen, I want people to sit down with their families and have that fantastic experience in the best way possible. Some of those moments, we don't get back, right? I've had the fortunate blessing and sometimes curse of standing on a stage, watching 20, 30,000 people go absolutely bananas, and understanding how this, a lot of entertainment and music stuff really resonates with people. So to me, that drives what I want to see in any product that I put my name near or around, is that experience has got to be number one. And a lot of these sacrifices that a lot of the, homogenization of audio and even video per se has created, there's long lines in the McDonald's drive-thru, but you're not getting a great meal. Let's just put it that way.
Yeah.
And that's
100%.
that's how I see that side of it. And that it's important to Magnetar. It's important to me. It's certainly where our synergies lie. It's important in relation to Enclave and where Enclave's headed in the future. That will always drive first and foremost, the mantra of the business.
I love it. We're going to give people a quick little musical break. And when we come back, I'm going to ask about how Magnetar kind of, because there seems to be a line between home theater and hi-fi, and it seems like Magnetar is right in the middle of that and kind of caters to a lot of what home theater users like, but also hi-fi. So let's take a quick little break, and when we get back, we'll get into that.
Awesome.
And welcome back. We are here with Rob Jones, the president of Magnetar North America. And just before the break, I started kind of teasing what this second half was going to kind of start with, which is home theater and audiophiles do have some very different needs. There is some things that kind of cross over between the two. So when you have a physical media player like these Magnetar products, do you kind of play into more of the home theater role or the hi-fi enthusiast role? is there like a major distinction in this element in the physical media technology? Can you like talk to me a little bit about maybe some of the pros of having this system for a hi-fi enthusiast versus a home theater enthusiast?
Yeah, I think I would define this as the Magnetar products are for anybody who appreciates the quality of experience for accurate representation of both video and audio, right? And that, so, yes, the components that we use, DACs and all of the design that goes into it, it's all audiophile grade stuff.
Yep.
We have our secret sauce as far as our video goes, but we pay attention to things, clock and jitter, and make sure that we don't have noise. We have dedicated power supplies, toroidal power supplies, things that focus on ensuring that the experience is what it should be. And it does kind of tread the wall on both just based on the price point, right? We're not, ultra premium up there, $20,000-$30,000, but we're not, a $200 Sony either, right? So, I think that from an audiophile, cinephile perspective, I think we meet those demands. We certainly have had enough feedback from, again, a lot of respected folks. Number one, the folks that create the content that the devices play. We get their validation and make sure that we're doing it right. And, you're always going to have the balance of, objective versus subjective, right? And that even goes back to my history in recording studios, sitting there with bands and certain artists or producers that say, I want to record in this studio on this console because it sounds this way, or I want to record in that studio on that console because it sounds that way. Both being technically accurate, just a matter of what your preference is on what your ears like or what you're trying to deliver as an end product. And for us, we're trying to deliver accuracy. So, accuracy means to us that, we are as faithful to the content as we can possibly be. And we use products and design our products in ways that allow us to do that. And then what we do is we go out and we validate that we are actually hitting that mark. Right. So, it's a bit of I'm trying to give you the runaround on the question, but
yeah,
it really is, we kind of just satisfy both sides of it. But, anybody who has a large media library that's invested in it over the years that really, has the screen, opposite problem of the soundbar, right? Let's go spend $4,000 on a panel and $400 on a soundbar. Right.
Doesn't really. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Same thing here. You don't want to, run a Magnetar into an Insignia Fire TV either, right? So nothing against Insignia or Fire TVs. It's just, it's not the same. You're not going to see the benefits of the Magnetar. The Insignia is not capable of really offering you the experience we're capable of producing. So,
let's say like somebody is audiophile, hi-fi enthusiast. Mm-hmm. They get the Magnetar. They have no intention of using it for the video aspects of things.
Sure.
What are they still getting in this player that makes it ideal for them?
So again, I would go back to the quality of components, attention to design, attention to detail. That we're using the ESS 9038 and 9028 DACs for the 7.1 and 2.0 out, respectively. You're getting a myriad of ways in which you can handle that audio digitally or analog, obviously XLR, RCA. So we're giving you a myriad of options in which you can transport that audio to whatever you're going to connect it to. But primarily what you're getting is the experience that this company has in being able to create audio products that accurately represent what's on that disc without color, right? A lot of stuff that we've seen out there adds color in some way or another. And that's usually based on high volume, lower quality components that aren't capable of kind of doing things the right way.
Interesting. So, you kind of already mentioned this, the idea that the kind of larger brand behind Magnetar produces a lot of the players and all that stuff. Yeah. And there isn't very many, like I'm going to say, not optical drive. What would that be? There's not a whole lot of manufacturers of the technology that go into Blu-rays and physical media these days.
The players, right. So we use Sony optical. Yep. Right. Dependable, reliable, has been for years. Quality levels there. We know them. We know the product. We know its quirks, its positives, its minuses, and we've been able to design them and integrate them in a way that for us meets our expectations and levels of performance that we have for the players. But yeah, there's not, the list of options
is dwindling.
Yeah.
So, and I guess my kind of thought process here, and you kind of already alluded to it to a degree, is like I can go on to some of these hi-fi brands websites and I see players like CD players for like in the tens of thousands. I don't know if I've seen $100,000 CD transports or anything like that, but definitely tens of thousands. Yeah, right. And I look at that and then I say, well, like when I compare it to Magnetar, like $4,000 or
$3,000,
$3,000,
$4,000 Canadian,
yeah. I'm the Canuck up north with my funny money. But when I look at that and I say, like, would there be a significant difference in the output quality? And the players themselves, like the optical drive itself, is probably all being made by the same one or two companies. Sony being the premium.
In a lot of cases, yes. But how you handle, even it's digital, right? How you handle that video and noise and those kinds of things and keep interference out of it can certainly matter. And the cheaper the product, the less you're going to find in that design, which is going to preclude the ability for a player to fend off interference of all kinds, right?
All the other fun stuff.
Yes, right.
And then I kind of look at that and say, well, for me personally, like I love audio. I love kind of the hi-fi stuff, but I'm like a big movie nerd and I love watching movies, and like a device like this seems to kind of be a nice fit for both. And then I think of like, oh, well, like I still have some CDs that I've had for years. I don't remember the last time I bought CDs. I've gotten some CDs from different artists that were given to me that are amazing. Right. But I almost keep them in the package because they're like a souvenir, and I listen to their digital downloads.
Totally.
So, Convenience. Exactly.
Yeah.
But like I'm thinking about this, and I'm trying to think of like your ideal audience. Is your ideal audience like? Do you go after people that are home theater nuts entirely, or is there audiophiles that are just straight audiophiles that are like, I'm never going to use the video element of this, but that's the kind of player for me? Or is it those kind of hybrid folks that are a little bit of a mix?
There's kind of seven verticals, right? There's the technical guys who are, the tech geeks that read the spec sheets and, will put this thing on a bench and satisfy themselves that it does what it says it does. And, there are other folks who just read about the player, read trusted words from folks they trust about what they say about the player and say, I want the best, right? This sounds like a great player. I've read it, right? And they're not as technically inclined. They just know they want a good quality of product that's, that's got
put it in, press play, and it works.
And it works, and it looks good, and it sounds good. And, one of the things that we did, even when you're talking about product design, right, is you look at the remote control for a UDP 900 and there's so many buttons, it's make your head spin, right? But when the wife, may not be as sophisticated as we are with our equipment, and you go on vacation, or not vacation, so you go on a business trip somewhere, and she's at home and she's like, how do I turn the player on?
Yeah.
Right? So what we did is we created an app with a basic menu. Right. So you could open up your iPhone and it's got stop, start, play, power on, power off.
I love it.
Right. And that is, because we understand that even folks who don't want they'll use 6 of the buttons on their remote and don't care about the rest, aren't necessarily going to want to have to deal with that remote in the dark, trying to find the buttons, even though it's backlit, right? They just pop up on their phone and bloop, 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 and it's done, and it's convenient. So it rides a cross section of folks who are, studio guys who just want the audio side of it and know that it meets or beats anything else that they're going to use in their production chain, right? From a quality output standpoint. There are folks, like I said, who just kind of want the best. And then there are guys who, look at it and say, I've got, 50 grand, 100 grand invested in my home theater. And, without going to kind of esoteric, I cap out at a Panny 9000. Yep. And this does a lot more stuff than the Panny 9000 does. This is for me. Right. So
that's really cool.
Yeah, I'm always looking, as everybody does with us, right? Looks for our Achilles heel, and I look at, for example, with Panasonic, and this isn't an attack. I have a Panasonic. I've had their products for years, but they offer a 90-day labor warranty on a $1,200 player, which just kind of makes me itch a little bit, right? Because that to me is, if I want a customer to buy a Magnetar and go, and we get them. So how long's the warranty on this? If this takes a dump, what do I have to worry about? Because this looks like expensive to fix, right? Yeah. And we offer an entirely different warranty, turnkey for 2 years, transferable, right? I mean, we add these types of things to those buyers because we understand a circumstance where a customer may have installed a home theater in his home. He's got the Magnetar in a rack, and what's he going to do? Pull it out and move it to his next place? No, it's going to stay with the house. Sure. Right. So transfer that warranty, you're good, right? We try and think of all of the mechanics of the customer profiles that we have and accommodate them in various ways that we can, whether it be someone who's horrifically, absurdly technical to the person who just is a more affluent human being who likes to invest in, their movie or audio experiences. Either way.
So is there any experiences or any things that you can kind of think of in the future that might be interesting to explore for Magnetar? Like different products or more focused products or anything like that?
So you will definitely see more products from Magnetar in 2025. I can't get too much into detail.
Sure. Yeah.
I will tell you. I
like putting you on the spot like this.
No, it's fine. It's fine. We are going more ultra premium in some product regards. In some ways, we're going incrementally more premium. But we're always, I will tell you this, we're never going to leave a current customer behind. So anything, let's say we, as an example, let's say we do a next gen version of this player. There will be upgrade kits, right? We're not going to forget about these customers and say, okay, well, you just bought a 900 and 2025, here comes a new player or here comes a new this. And, we're going to make sure that if you want to upgrade to that player version and all of the, improvements that it has, we will create a pathway for that, right? So, which manufacturers I don't think really ever think about, but we do. So so our product plans, again, all wrapped around consumer experience, whether it's what you watch, what you hear, how you're treated, the warranties that you have, the support that you get. I'm always trying to make it as customer centric as possible. I'm also pragmatic and realistic in understanding that in a lot of cases with customers, there's personalities out there that have very high demands when they're putting these kinds of dollars out for products. And we have to understand that culture is different than even, say, an Enclave with $1,000 wireless mass market home theater, right? It's an entirely different customer. And it's a different understanding of those requirements, product requirements, policies that you apply to your business. And all of those things make a difference. So that's all part of how you're going to see Magnetar Audio move into 2025 is by expanding that mantra through new products and growing the business and supporting everybody from the dealer to the end user.
In spirit of Magnetar doing both kind of the video and the audio, the typical last question I ask, I'm going to change it up just a little bit. And it's going to be this. So what would be a song or album that you could always just pop in and play, and it's like the soundtrack to your life or your comfort music or whatever it may be? And then would there be a TV show or video that does the same thing for the visual side of things?
See, this is going to be an obvious answer because you'll get it. So my wife is a singer-songwriter and has been since 2010.
Very cool.
She was dear friends with Dolores from the Cranberries. Dolores was kind of her mentor, and she's now literally coming out with a new record in 2025. So if I answered this question with anything else but one of her videos and her music, I'd probably have a sack of tomatoes on me. No, seriously. No, listen, I in particular, no, because I'm a hard person to ask that question because I come from so much music. But I will tell you, when I'm taking my last breath, I will be listening to my wife's music.
That's awesome. And video or movie? Do you have? We're getting close to the holidays, so is there a holiday one?
This is going to sound really corny, but it goes back to my childhood.
Yeah.
Charlie and Chocolate Factory, Willy Wonka.
Oh, that's good.
Just takes me back. And I love that movie. I love Gene Wilder, number one.
So good.
That movie is just, such an experience, right? And it resonated with me and still does today. And at 57, I'll sit down and watch that movie and it'll put the same smile it did on me when I was 10.
Very cool. Well, Rob, thank you so much for taking the time to join us. And looking forward to see what Magnetar has to offer in the future.
Thank you. Yes, keep your eye out. There's good things to come.